Hey, Ioannis. So how did you get started in the field of computational imaging?
So when I got into my PhD, I was actually planning to do statistical machine learning, or that's at least what I thought I wanted to do at the point, statistical learning theory. But my advisor, Todd Ziegler, he was very active in physics-based imaging and computational photography. And as I was talking to other people in the lab and to my advisor, I realized I really appreciated the combination of physics and hardware and math and computing that this area has. So gradually during my PhD, I got more and more and more into computational photography. So it was a transition during the first 2, 3 years of my PhD.
So on that note, what do you recommend to students in terms of kind of picking their research direction when they start their PhD? Because it sounds like you kind of switch directions.
Which I think, by the way, is pretty common in computational photography. A lot of people switch into computational rather than start from it. Yeah, I mean, it's very important to have an open conversation with your advisor. And ideally, if your university provides you the choice, the option to go and talk to different advisors and see, maybe work for them for a few months, that's great. If there is no option to do that, you should still try during your first 2 years to very actively discuss with your advisor about different research topics within an area, or even different types of research areas that both you and your advisor can collaborate, because obviously it needs to appeal to both of them, right? Because yeah, it's hard coming out of undergrad school, coming out of college, to know what you want to do for research. And another thing that can help, that I encourage my students to do during the first 2 years, is to take courses broadly. I know it's sometimes this goes counter to advice often people get, grad students get in the first few years. They are taught to ignore courses. I think it's really important. But it's really important to get courses broadly. Like, go and take courses in areas that you don't know. Don't take all of the graphics or vision or imaging courses. Take some math areas, some physics areas, other stuff that you haven't explored, because those expose you to other areas. And also attend talks. Just sign up for all of the group meetings you can find within some reason, obviously, in your university, and then go and see talks there and see what appeals to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, once you've kind of taken those courses and you're pursuing your research, how do you recommend choosing a good research project? What makes a good research project?
Um, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, that's a $1 million question for research, right? Personally, I enjoy projects where I can really do everything that computational photography is meant to combine: math, physics, hardware, and some programming. So I can make some contribution in all four of these components. That's a project I enjoy. And yeah, another rule of thumb is that if I'm working in a project where I feel there is a lot of competition, and I get to the point where I'm worried that my work may be scooped, or someone else may do what I do slightly better and then beat me the next CVPR or SIGGRAPH, that usually tells me that it's time to move on to something else. It means that topic has become maybe a bit stale, or like the work we're all doing is kind of incremental, so I'm going to look for something new so that I can then think more and try to explore a very different direction, and also remove the stress of competing, which is actually really important.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I guess on that same note again, you know, do you think you should choose a research project more based off of the potential kind of applications it could have, or more from scientific curiosity, or there's no one size fits all?
Yeah, I don't think there is one size fit all. Ideally, it should be both. Like, these are really the best projects, great application, but also remarkable scientific breakthrough. Obviously, not all of our projects can be like that, and I think in general it's good to have a portfolio that has both. You have both more of the application-driven side, but at the same time also the frontier pushing side that's more on the scientific regime. And typically, it's going to be that the breakthrough thing you're working right now, it's going to take a while to mature into something that's application driven, which is why it's nice to have two parallel things going on, focusing on the two different aspects of this spectrum. Now, obviously, that's more easily done as a faculty than as a PhD student, because as a faculty, you have a much bigger bandwidth thanks to all of your students. But even as a PhD student, we can get to the level of having both application-focused and more research science-focused projects. I think that's a great way to go about. And if we can combine them, even better, obviously, if we get to that point.
And I guess that leads well into my last question, which is, as you go through your PhD, if you're kind of thinking about academia afterwards, how do you recommend kind of aligning what you do with that goal of pursuing like faculty positions?
Yeah, First of all, you should try, I'll say the following. When I was a grad student, I helped my advisor with some of his grant writing. At the time, I thought it was super tedious. I think it was the thing during my grad school I liked the least. Then when I became a faculty, I thought, oh, this was such a useful experience. I'm so glad that Todd, my advisor, asked me to help him with that. So if you are really convinced you're going to go into academia, something you should try to do is get some grant writing experience with your advisor, because it's going to help you and remove some of the anxiety of fundraising. So that's one thing. You should also try to engage in teaching activities, outreach activities. All of these are things that you will be expected to do as a a faculty, and it's good to have some experience on. As you get more and more senior in the lab, it's useful to get some experience supervising other students. Like in my lab, we usually have undergrad students, and I like to pair them up with some senior student in the lab to help with supervision. And then, of course, it's useful to have a lot of collaborators that you can then ask to be strong letter writers for your application. And these collaborators may come out of your own proactivity, reaching out to other people at conferences like ICCP or other conferences and engaging with them and talking to them, or they may come through your advisor. It's not as easy to get. They may come through internships. That's another venue. So yeah, this would be 3 pieces of advice for people looking to go into academia.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.